What are we going to do for Halloween? Everybody's been asking me since October is here. Sweater weather has started. People want to know, what are we going to do for Halloween? Nobody is sure, and in this video we're going to talk through exactly what I think are some safe ideas and some unsafe ideas for Halloween. As we get started, what I want to know from you is, on a typical year, when you get done trick-or-treating, what is that candy that you always have to borrow, try, steal from your kid's bag? Comment below because I want to know what it is that your favorite candy is. For me, it is definitely Reese's Pieces. So as we get started, comment below what that is. Okay, 2020 has been a little bit of an odd year. I don't know if you've noticed, but things have not been normal. Halloween will not be 100% normal this year, but I want to talk through what I think are some safe ways to do Halloween that still allow you to have fun with your child, fun as a family, enjoy, celebrate, get dressed up, all of those good things. I'm actually going to split it up into two videos. So what I would like you to do is hit the subscribe button below so you don't miss out, because today we're going to talk about what families can do for Halloween. Next week you're going to talk about the candy giver outers and how they can do it safely so that everybody can have a nice, safe, fun Halloween where we still get to dress up, we still get to enjoy, party, eat candy, all of those things, but do it in a safe way in 2020. Now, what I want to do first and foremost is for you to take away from this video that you can still dress up, you can still eat candy, and those are the things that I think that you should be talking to your child about. Hey, Halloween might not look totally normal yet. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I want you to know that you can still get dressed up, because I still talk with all my patients. Like, we have different, throughout the year, we have different things that, like, I can talk about. What are you going to do this summer? How's school going? What are you going to be for Halloween? Those are like some of like the primary fodder for conversations with kids. Now this year, what are you going to do for summer? How's school going? Those questions have kind of gone out the window for the most part. But I'm still asking all the kids that I see and their parents, what are you going to be for Halloween? What are you guys doing for Halloween? And I've been trying to get a good sense from my audience, from the people that I see in my office to my online audience, what people are planning for Halloween. And I asked in my Instagram stories yesterday, what do you think is safe for Halloween? And I got like 100 plus responses of different variations, and we're going to talk through some of those today and talk about what are some safe ways to celebrate Halloween, to enjoy and spend time as a family. The one message, so we're going to say we can still get dressed up, we can still eat candy. What I want you as the parent to do is don't wait until 6:45 on October 31st to start to mention to your child that Halloween might not look exactly the same as last year. This is a conversation that you can start anytime and say, hey, I'm not really sure exactly what Halloween's going to look like this year. We're still trying to figure that out. We don't exactly know, but we're still going to have candy. We're still going to get dressed up. We're still going to have fun. Those are things that we can do no matter what we decide actually to do in terms of trick-or-treating or Halloween parties, or all of those things. So don't wait until October 31st to drop that bomb that Halloween might look a little bit different this year. So after talking with a lot of fellow pediatricians in Facebook groups and in my practice and online and text messages and everything like that, along with asking my audience and asking the parents that I see in my office, I think I've come up with a good list and good ideas that you can draw from to figure out what is best for you and for your family this Halloween. Now, all of this depends on local conditions. What's going on in New York is not the same as going on in California or Florida or Nebraska. Wherever you live, you need to look at the local conditions and let that be your guide. There's also specific measures by local health departments that determine what you should and shouldn't do. So first and foremost, you need to follow those and look to see what they're recommending for your community, because it does vary, and we know that things will change over the next time between when you're watching this video and when Halloween arrives. Things might look drastically different. So you're going to take that into account. And then the other thing that you're going to take into account is your personal risks. These are children with chronic medical conditions, parents that have chronic medical conditions, grandparents, caregivers, babysitters, teachers, all of those different people. We're going to take those into account when we're deciding what to do, because we know that nothing is without risk. That's okay. We know that everything that we do in life has risks that we calculate and figure out if it's safe to drive in the car or cross the street or eat the leftover tacos in the fridge. Everything carries a risk, and what we need to do is decide this is an acceptable risk for our family. There's benefits to celebrating Halloween and seeing the people that we love dressed up. to having that special kind of tradition for our family. Those are things that are important and people like those. And so we're going to honor those things, but at the same time, we're going to take into account our own personal risks and say, hey, I know that we usually do Halloween, but remember, we are in the midst of a pandemic, Billy, and Grandma, she could get really sick if she gets coronavirus, and so we're going to be extra careful. It's kind of, we're deciding that we're not going to do trick-or-treating quite like normal because we want to be able to see Grandma. We want to make sure that Grandma stays safe and healthy, and so we're going to just do things a little bit differently this year. That is certainly a conversation that you can have with your child and help them to understand why we're doing things a little bit different, realizing that every kid gets a lot of Halloweens. One Halloween that's not like the rest is not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but if you just tell that to your child, they will probably be quite upset. So I would phrase that a little bit differently. So what are the different things that we can do as a family to stay safe and have a fun Halloween? I think the first one that I heard from a lot of people that are worried or in an area where there's a high rate of transmission at this moment is a party at home. You can do your own party. You can have everybody dress up. You can even go room to room trick-or-treating where, mom or dad is behind the door. Kids go down the hallway, knock on the doors. You can dress up. You can do all those things and do trick-or-treating as a family. I mean, you could even do it outside and just keep it to your own family around your house and trick-or-treat that way. You could also do a scavenger hunt. I saw that a lot in the comments on the Instagram story that I did, was like a scavenger hunt, something else fun that's different for the family. Chance to get candy, chance to dress up, chance to laugh and spend time together. So that's the first idea, is just keep it to yourself. You can also throw in like a movie night. You could watch some scary movies or some fun movies that you've been wanting to watch with the kids. And that's a great way to just make Halloween special, unique, different without being out and about in the public, if that's your choice, which I totally respect and understand that there's a lot of people out there in a lot of areas of the country where there's a lot of coronavirus going on right now. And the best choice to prevent spread is just to keep to your own self and your own family, and that's totally fine. So that would be my first idea. Now, the second idea is if you kind of have your own bubble or your own close relatives and you've all been practicing the same sort of measures of social distancing and wearing masks, and everybody feels comfortable with each other, realizing that there's nothing without any risk, you could always do a outside gathering, a small gathering where you do some outside games, weather permitting. You wear masks when you're indoor and in close contact with each other, but getting together in that small group of people that are in your bubble or your close relatives is just as safe as all the other days of the year. So if you're doing that on a regular basis anyways, Halloween can be no different, except that you can all get dressed up. You can even make your costumes more fun by wearing a mask. Like, wouldn't it be silly to have Chewbacca wearing a mask? Like, that's just extra ridiculous, and that would be a fun thing to do for Halloween, just to add some lightness to everything that we're going through at this moment. So if you have your own bubble, if you have close relatives, if it's kids in the class that they're seeing on a regular basis at school and they're wearing masks and you're really not expanding your bubble much, and you're able to do it outside and you're able to distance and wear masks, go for it. Now, the third idea, which is actually my favorite one, is to organize something as a way to connect with the people that live near you. Usually we're talking the same street, the same block, the same small neighborhood. Kids usually know each other. They see each other in passing. Maybe they play together outside, or, in non-pandemic years, they run from house to house to house. Do something as a neighborhood or a block or a street or the people that live around you that's safe and allows the people that are in the neighborhood to see the kids dressed up. This could look like a little street parade where everybody just kind of, says at 7:30 we're going to have a parade. Everyone start walking down the street. The neighbors will be out. They'll be throwing candy from their porches at the kids. I mean, I would eat a Reese's peanut butter cup that had been thrown at me, by a passerby. I don't think that you have to be so precious about candy that it can't touch the ground in between getting, from the neighbor, thrown at the kids, gently, of course. And then they pick it up and they put it in their bag, and then you take it home and you eat it later and whatnot. That's totally safe and fine to get a little bit of dirt on the outside wrappers of your candy. Not a big deal. And that's a way that everybody can see the kids. Like, there's probably, if your neighborhood is like most neighborhoods, there's a mix of young families, those that have high school kids, those that are empty nesters, and then more elderly people that live in the neighborhood. Everybody gets to see each other. They get to see the kids that they see out on their bikes in their costumes without getting in close contact. And I think that's a really safe way to do Halloween too. And that's actually my favorite idea, because it still allows for the kids to get dressed up, to show off their costumes, to have a sense of normalcy of going around the neighborhood, but it keeps everybody at a little bit more than arm's length so that you're getting that chance to connect and see each other, but everybody's in their own little space. You don't have to wear masks if everyone is outside and appropriately distanced, so that you can really get to enjoy it. And the especially the old people on the street, the elderly people, those that don't have their own kids at home or anything like that anymore, that they get to experience Halloween in a safe way that protects them as somebody that's at higher risk for complications from coronavirus. So that's actually my favorite idea, is everybody does a parade. You have to organize it in advance. You can text message. You can have the kids run flyers and put them on the doors, like October 31st, 6:45 p.m. We're starting a Halloween parade. Everybody's going to be spaced out, and it's like a parade. Like, Snoopy comes by, and then a few minutes later, the next group come by. I mean, it doesn't have to be that spread out and that organized and everything like that, but just something where we know around this time, everyone's going to be out on their porch watching the kids parade by. I think that's a really fun idea and a way to safely get together for Halloween and get to see each other and collect some candy in the meantime. Okay, so far we've talked about just keeping to your own family, sticking to a small bubble of close relatives and people that are doing things similarly to you with coronavirus. And then third would be like a parade. Which of those sounds best to you so far? Which one can you get behind as what you might do for your family this year for Halloween? If you would comment below, I would love to see what you're thinking right now as we're talking this through. Does this make sense? Would this work for my family? Would this work for my community or not, based on, we live in apartments or we live in a rural area? There's so many different variables that go in, but hopefully this is giving you some ideas that you can take. And like I said, we're going to talk next week about what, as adults, as the people, the doorbells are getting rung and trick-or-treating is coming to us and we're handing out candy, how we can do that in a safe way. So hit subscribe so that you don't miss next week's episode. Now, the fourth way that we can do Halloween this year would be similar to traditional trick-or-treating. You go house to house like normal, and like I said, next week we're going to talk about, what as the people that are at the houses, that are stationed at the houses giving out the candy can do. So hit subscribe. But the good things about traditional trick-or-treating is, one, it's outdoors, which is one of the most important factors in preventing the spread, is outdoors for trick-or-treat. Now, some years it's cold, some years it's warm, but we know that kids are outside, they're running quickly past each other, which means that even if you pass by somebody, the likelihood that there's enough virus particle in the air with you, running down the sidewalk or walking swiftly down the sidewalk, that's going to transmit is quite low. And so I think in general, the kids walking down the streets, adults walking behind them, maybe with something in their hand to drink, is as safe as usual in terms of that part of the trick-or-treating experience and coronavirus. Now, if everyone's gathered together or we go in big bands of people, we might want to slim those bands down to smaller groups or just within our family, so that we're not exposed for a long period of time to other people, because we know for coronavirus to spread, you need close contact, less than 6 feet, no mask, and greater than 15 minutes of exposure. And so the likelihood of that happening as people pass is quite low, and I think that is a reasonable risk. That doesn't put anyone at high risk if you're otherwise healthy and not having any chronic medical issues or anything like that. All that being said, especially if rates are high in your community, worth looking at what the local health department recommends, because cases can get so high that you just don't want to take that risk. Now, walking around, going from house to house is probably fine. The time where you're at the highest risk then is probably when the kids are ringing the doorbell, standing in close, all huddled around together, and then the adult opens the door and hands them the candy, and they get down in your face because they got to put it in the bag and they got to see the costumes and all those different things. So what can we do at that moment? Well, we're going to talk in the video next week about what the caregivers can do, but I think in those cases that it is important to wear a mask, because you are getting in close contact. And say you are the adult and a little kid comes up and coughs right in your face. Well, you weren't around them for 15 minutes, but you were really close by, and those kids do not cover their mouths worth a darn. And so that is a situation where I think it would be ideal if both parties were wearing masks. And I'm not talking about the Freddy Krueger mask or the Darth Vader mask. You still do need to have a multi-layer cloth mask or surgical type mask on in those close proximity settings. Now, there's some other ways that we can do this. Ideas like having a table that has the candy out and The people that it's their house are on one side of the table and they're refilling the candy on the table, and then the kids pass by and they get to wave and see each other and comment on what a cute dress and how scary and what a great ninja and all those different things without getting in that close contact. And we'll talk through some more strategies for that next week. There's some really creative things that I've seen going around the internet. But I do think that going traditional trick-or-treating from house to house is safe enough if you take those precautions, if you make sure that obviously you're not going to do any of these things if your child is sick or if you as the adult are sick or having a pending COVID test. But if you can do that safely, and then you can mitigate the risks somehow when you get actually up to the house to do candy, which is, making sure that their lights are on, that they're clearly home and they want to participate in Halloween, because it's something that you can choose not to participate in Halloween if you're at high risk and you just want to watch and wave from the window. Put a box of candy out on the ground or a tub of candy out and let the kids get it while you wave at them. Totally another safe way to do it. There are ways to do this safely. I think that we really just have to be cognizant with our kids and say, hey, Halloween's not going to be totally normal this year. I know that you love wearing your Cinderella costume, but we do have to have Cinderella put a mask on when we go house to house, and we're up in the faces of those people getting candy to keep them safe, because they have grandkids, they're older. We need to make sure that they keep them safe. So we're just going to put a mask on when we get our candy. I think one thing that everyone has realized in our community, everyone basically went back to school. A percentage stayed at home, but a large percentage did go to school. We haven't had a lot of transmission in school. Kids are totally fine with wearing masks. I have gotten 0 messages from parents asking for a note to excuse them for their child to wear a mask because they just can't do it. I ask parents when they come in, is masks a big deal? No, it's not a big deal at all. Kids don't care about it whatsoever. Not a big deal. So kids will be totally fine with wearing a mask when they're actually getting the candy. I mean, if you want candy, you got to put your mask on. I think that's a pretty much a no-brainer for most kids. They'll wear their mask because they do it at school all day anyways, and it's not a big deal to incorporate a mask into their ninja costume or their Cinderella outfit or whatever they're wearing for Halloween. Not a big deal at all. So I find that if you're going to do that, wear masks. Make sure that when you take the candy home, there's not a lot of transmission on surfaces. We know it certainly wouldn't hurt to give it a day or so just to kind of air out, and any virus particle that could be on there, which would be very low, probably be gone after that period of time. Very low risk candy transmission, in my opinion. But those would be my suggestions for trick-or-treating. Now, 5th idea is what I would not do, which is I would not host a big indoor Halloween party. I know that these are popular and that some people like to do the indoor Halloween party for all of their family and friends to come over and bake and eat and party and show off costumes and take pictures and blah, 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 blah. I just wouldn't do that this year. I just don't think that's a safe way to celebrate this year with everything going on with coronavirus in the community. We know that we're going into influenza season. We know that there's additional risks for those that are at high risk from obesity, diabetes, being elderly. All of those things add up. And we know that it spreads in the community. Even if it's a bunch of healthy people, it spreads as we go out. We have a college campus in our town, and we know that we're having a lot of spread in the college campus, but we're also having spread into the community because those college kids are not isolated. They interact with the rest of the community, and that's what leads to the spread across the community. What do you think? What is your plan for Halloween? What is your family going to do? What are your kids going to dress up as? Comment below, share with me what's going on so that we can continue to have a fun Halloween, have the fun tradition, but do it in a safe way that promotes everyone's health and well-being. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, and I would love to see your comments. Keep up the good work.